They didn't expect you to keep standing. That's the part that stuns them. They watched you get hit with things that fold most people in half. Silence from someone you loved. Pressure that never let up. Days where even breathing felt like work. And they waited for you to crack. Most people think strength looks loud. Proving, posting, talking big. But real strength is quieter. It's the decision you make when nobody is cheering, and you're tired of being the strong one. Here's what you haven't noticed yet. They've been tracking you. Not because they're kind, but because they're confused. You don't fall apart on schedule. You don't beg for permission to recover. And when you do stumble, you get back up with a calm that makes them nervous. If you've wondered why their tone changes when you walk in, why they go quiet when you speak, that's not imagination. It's recognition of the kind of person you became. In a minute, I'll tell you the exact moment it clicked for them, and the 3 reasons they can't stop watching you now. But first, you need to understand what strength actually is. Most people call someone strong when they're loud about it. They confuse volume with power. They think strength is winning arguments, flexing success, never admitting fear. But that's performance. Real strength is what you do when nobody claps. Real strength is discipline when you could choose comfort. It's getting up on the day your mind begs you to stay down. It's recovering without making your pain everyone else's responsibility. It's restraint, having the ability to destroy something and choosing not to. It's consistency that doesn't depend on mood, attention, or praise. That's why so few people ever reach it. Most people live in reaction. They chase quick relief, quick validation, quick escapes. They want the reward without the repetition. And the moment life stops applauding, they stop showing up. If you don't understand this, you'll keep measuring yourself by the wrong scoreboard, and you'll miss what you've already built. So when they look at you and feel that quiet shock, it's not because you're perfect. It's because you're practicing the kind of strength that can't be faked, borrowed, or copied overnight. Even your silence is part of it. You don't announce every struggle because you're too busy surviving it. That's why their confidence wobbles around you. Your stability exposes how fragile their strength really is under pressure daily. And if you've lived through certain things, you've already proven you have it. Some people quit loudly. You continue quietly, and that quiet is what scares them, because it means your strength isn't a mood. It's a habit. Think about the days you weren't inspired. You still showed up. You answered the message you didn't want to answer. You went to work with a chest full of weight. You handled responsibilities while your mind replayed the same hurt like a broken song. Nobody posted about that version of you. Nobody handed you a medal. But you did it anyway. Most people believe persistence looks like a dramatic comeback. The truth is, it looks like ordinary minutes stacked on top of each other. Washing the dish, making the call, taking the walk, finishing the task. Invisible reps, the kind that build a person from the inside out. You felt the heaviness that makes time move slower. The heaviness that makes you question if your effort matters. And still, somehow, you kept moving. Not perfectly, not loudly, but forward. That's why when you're quiet in a room, people notice. They can't tell if you are tired or focused, broken or rebuilding, because you don't broadcast your struggle. Here's the part you may not realize. They watch you like that on purpose. They're waiting to see if this is the day you finally stop. They're measuring their own excuses against your consistency. and it makes them uncomfortable. Because every time you keep going, you prove something without saying a word. Pressure doesn't own you. And once you've learned that, the next question isn't whether you can endure. It's what you do with the pain you're carrying and who you become after it. They're shocked because you don't react like everyone else. When something hits, an insult, a disappointment, a sudden loss, you don't explode on cue. You pause, you breathe. You let the first wave pass, and that tiny delay looks like control to anyone who's been ruled by impulse their whole life. Most people think being strong means feeling nothing. The truth is, you feel it all. You just refuse to hand the steering wheel to the emotion. You've learned that anger can make you say things you can't take back, and sadness can make you accept things you shouldn't. So you do something rare. You choose your response. That's why your boundaries land differently. You don't argue for hours. You don't chase closure from people who enjoy withholding it. You don't beg someone to understand what they are committed to misunderstanding. You simply stop participating. And for people who rely on drama to feel powerful, that calm refusal feels like a threat. You've turned pain into rules, into standards, into, "I'm not doing that again." You don't let yesterday's damage dictate today's behavior. You let it sharpen your decision-making. That's a level up most people never reach, because it requires sitting with discomfort instead of escaping it. And yes, sometimes you want to snap. Sometimes you want to be messy, loud, and reckless like everyone else. But you've seen what that costs. So you take the hit. You learn the lesson, and you keep your dignity intact. That's why they can't predict you, and that's why they keep staring. They hate it, because control is the one thing they pretend to have, until you prove they don't. And that connects to the part they can't copy. They saw the result. They never saw the nights it took. There was a version of you that sat in the dark, phone face down, arguing with your own mind. One voice said, "Let it go, numb it, quit." Another voice, quieter, said, "Just make it to tomorrow." That was the battle. Not the world against you, but you against the part of you that wanted relief more than growth. You lost people in that season, sometimes literally, sometimes emotionally. You stopped explaining yourself because explanations became another way to bleed. You carried responsibilities while your chest felt hollow. You smiled at work, then went home and stared at the ceiling, trying to understand how life could feel so loud and so empty at the same time. And then it happened. The moment it clicked for them. Maybe it was the day you should have stayed down. But you showed up anyway, calm-eyed, focused, almost unreadable. Maybe it was when someone tried to bait you and you didn't bite. Or when they realized your "I'm fine" wasn't denial. It was discipline. They expected a breakdown they could gossip about. Instead, they got your quiet comeback. That's what stunned them. Not that you never hurt, but that you didn't become your hurt. You don't talk about that war because it wasn't for an audience. It was for survival. And now the person they're looking at is proof you won something most people never even fight. They can't name it, but they feel it. You've been forged, and you don't bend anymore. Now here's where it gets real. Strength changes how people treat you. The stronger you get, the more the world tries to negotiate you down. Not with obvious threats, but with small tests that look harmless until you fail them. It starts as jokes that aren't jokes, little disrespect wrapped in laughter, then a quick glance to see if you'll swallow it. It turns into guilt. You've changed. You're too serious. You think you're better now. What they're really asking is, will you go back to being easier to manage? Most people think strong people get celebrated. The truth is, strong people get challenged because your standards expose other people's comfort zones. Your calm makes their chaos look childish. Your boundaries make their habits look selfish. And that makes some of them reach for the only tool they have: pressure. If you don't understand this dynamic, you'll start shrinking without realizing it. You'll laugh at what hurt you, just to keep the room comfortable. You'll over-explain decisions that don't need permission. You'll lower the bar 1 inch at a time until you're back where they prefer you. Predictable, available, quiet. But here's what separates you. You notice the test. You feel the tug, the subtle push to betray yourself for approval, and you pause. You remember how hard it was to build this version of you, and you decide it won't be traded for temporary peace. That's why their energy shifts around you. They can sense you're not negotiating with your own self-respect anymore. So what makes them stunned is how you respond to those tests. That response is your real power. You don't raise your voice. You raise your standards. There was a time you tried to earn respect by being useful, saying yes, explaining yourself, giving people more chances than they deserved. But you learned the hard way. Respect you have to beg for is never respect, it's control. Now you do something different. You enforce it, calmly, cleanly. If someone talks slick, you don't trade insults. You say, "Don't speak to me like that." If they push your boundary, you don't debate it for an hour. You say, "That doesn't work for me," and you mean it. If they disappear and come back like nothing happened, you don't pretend you forgot. You say, "We're not skipping over that." Most people think boundaries are aggression. The truth is, boundaries are clarity. They don't exist to punish anyone. They exist to protect what you've built. And once you stop apologizing for protecting yourself, the room changes. People either step up or they step away. Some will call it attitude, because they miss the access they had to you. But the ones who respect themselves will respect you, because they recognize standards when they see them. That's why they're stunned. Because you're not performing confidence, you're practicing it. You don't need to win every conversation. You just refuse to lose yourself in one. You don't chase validation from people who only feel powerful when you're pleading. You've survived being misunderstood, so the threat of disapproval doesn't move you. And here's the identity shift. You're not difficult. You're difficult to manipulate. You're not cold. You're no longer available for chaos. But there's one more layer, the kind of strength that scares confident people. Your calm makes their chaos feel exposed. You walk in and you don't rush to fill silence. You listen before you speak. You don't over-explain your choices because you're not asking for a vote. That stillness reads like confidence. Even when you're being careful, people survive by noise. They talk fast to control the mood. They joke to dodge accountability. They stay busy so they never have to sit with themselves. So when you show up grounded, it's like a mirror they didn't consent to. Your presence asks a question without saying a word. Why are you so pressed? It isn't your face, it isn't your attitude, it's your composure. Eye contact that doesn't beg, a no that doesn't shake. Competence that speaks for itself. People can argue with opinions, but they can't argue with results. And they can't intimidate someone who isn't chasing approval. That's why some of them get quieter around you, or suddenly act distant. They feel watched, Even when you're not watching them, they feel evaluated, even when you're not judging, because deep down, they know they can't move you with the usual tricks. Here's the FOMO people miss. If you don't learn how to carry this calm without guilt, you'll shrink it to make others comfortable. And if you've ever wondered why they pull back, here's the reason. Your stability forces them to confront their instability. So choose your move carefully. They thought your silence was weakness until you moved. Because you don't advertise your plans, people fill the gaps with their assumptions. If you're calm, they call you soft. If you're polite, they call you harmless. If you forgive, they think you forgot. That misread is convenient for them, because it lets them stay comfortable. Most people think the loudest person is the most capable. The truth is the loudest person is often the most nervous. You've learned to wait, to watch, to let behavior speak before you spend your energy. And that patience makes people sloppy around you. They reveal themselves. They push a little too far. They say what they wouldn't say if they believed you had teeth, then you act. You set the boundary, you make the decision. You leave. You win quietly. And suddenly their story about you collapses. That's why the shock on their face looks personal, because it is. Your growth exposes their judgment. And the pattern keeps repeating, because you don't chase their approval to correct the narrative. You let time do it. You let results do it. You let your consistency do it. Some will respect you for that. Others will keep underestimating you, hoping the next time you'll finally be the version of you they can control. When they can't label you, they bait you into proving yourself to them again. So the real question isn't whether they'll misread you again. It's how you'll use this strength without burning out or isolating yourself. Stop proving you're strong. Start building what your strength is for. First, aim it at a routine, not a reaction. Most people spend their strength on surviving the day, then wonder why nothing changes. You've got to put your discipline on autopilot. One non-negotiable habit in the morning, one in the evening, and one weekly reset that keeps you from drifting. Second, protect your energy like it's money. You don't owe everyone access to your attention. If a conversation drains you, shorten it. If a situation repeats the same disrespect, leave it. Strength isn't staying, it's choosing. The moment you stop volunteering for chaos, your life gets quieter, and your progress gets louder. You choose your battles the same way you choose your friends, by alignment. Not every comment deserves a reply. Not every invitation deserves a yes. Save your fire for what moves your mission forward. Third, pick a purpose that deserves you. Don't waste your resilience on winning arguments, fixing people who won't fix themselves, or carrying relationships that only survive when you're carrying them. Put your effort into something that compounds. A skill, a body, a business, a craft, a future. Because here's the FOMO truth. The same strength that can build your life can also trap you in roles you outgrow. Most people think strong people can handle anything. The truth is strong people decide what they will no longer handle. That decision is where peace begins. You don't need to announce this shift. You just need to live it long enough that the right outcome starts speaking on your behalf. And when that happens, you'll understand exactly what they saw in you and what you do next. Their faces change when they realize you're not like them. It usually happens in a small moment, not a dramatic speech. A deadline hits and everyone panics, but you get quiet and handle it. Someone tries to embarrass you, and you don't flinch. A door closes in your face, and instead of begging, you build another one. That's when they stop talking and start watching. Because they weren't watching out of admiration at first. They were watching to confirm a theory, that you were strong only when life was easy. They waited for you to slip, to lash out, to fall apart like they would. And when you didn't, the room shifted. You can see it in their eyes. The jokes soften. The tone becomes careful. The people who used to test you start choosing their words. Even the confident ones hesitate because they can't locate your breaking point. You don't need to threaten anyone. Your history does it for you. And here's the strangest part. Some of them feel inspired, and some feel exposed. The same strength that makes the right people respect you makes the wrong people resent you. Either way, they can't unsee it now. So when you catch someone staring, when you notice that sudden politeness, remember what it really is: recognition. They finally understand you're not built for collapse. They saw the pattern enough times to know it wasn't luck, and it wasn't temporary. And the final truth is this: your strength isn't an accident.